I think people are looking for complexity. We're very good at creating complexity in our own lives. To get to a place that you genuinely enjoy your own company, like you genuinely think you're a bit of fun, like you're actually okay. You're actually pretty cool. And I'm looking at your face, and I don't know if this is on audio in the future or video or both, but the joy in your face or the sense of giddiness in your face I'm witnessing now. To me, I'm feeling that in my body saying this. To get to a point where you think, Jesus, actually, you know what? After all these years, I'm actually okay. I'm actually pretty good. I'm a good person and I like my own company. That's a remarkable place to be. And I'll tell you why.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Dr. Greg Wells podcast. I am so grateful that you are here. So happy that you are here. So honored that you are spending time with us today. I'm revisiting the way that the show works and really trying to up my game so that I can help you to get healthy, to perform better, to live an absolutely limitless life. And to that end, I want to bring to you experts this year that are going to change your game, give you the insights that you need to function at the highest level that you can to get healthy and to perform to your true human potential. To that end, I'm really excited to start this conversation thinking about purpose, meaning, and impact. Because the more that I explore this concept, the more that I realize that these are the foundations of us doing the work that we're meant to do in the world, the work that's going to elevate the world, the work that's going to help us the most, because by helping ourselves, we can then help others as well. And we struggle with meaning, purpose, and impact because it's hard to tease out sometimes. But Philip McKernan is a friend of mine who specializes in this. And he's an Irish speaker, author, filmmaker, and coach. He works with entrepreneurs, leaders, and athletes around the world who know that there is more and they want to live courageously. He talks a lot about bravery. He's built a reputation for his unapologetic, no bullshit approach and his ability to help people connect to the work that they were put here to do. He supports people in uncovering their unique gifts and using them to impact the world. He's really helped me so much over the last few years. His work is distinct. It's different because he goes far beyond the mindset hacks, the surface level biohacking, and he asks people to instead confront their deepest stories, their wounds, and what is truly authentic for them. His approach helps people to move from intellectual problem solving, which is where I'm most comfortable, which is why I enjoy this conversation, into a deeper state of emotional and existential alignment where you can access the gift that sits right next to some of your pain and put that gift out into the world to have a positive impact. He has conversations with people. He coaches people. He leads experiential retreats in his restored Brave Castle in Ireland. I've been there. It is amazing. And he creates an environment where people can discover the truths that in some cases they've spent lifetimes avoiding. And in so doing, unlock a more courageous, meaningful life. We're really, really fortunate to have the opportunity to speak to Philip today. I'm really excited to share this conversation with you because I know this is going to make a difference. I would really encourage you to block off this time. It's about 40 minutes. Get some paper out, take notes, because Philip is going to challenge you to do certain things during this conversation. And if you do the work necessary to work your way through the thinking that is required, to really leverage this information, it will change your life, which is ultimately what we're going for here. Not to change it because, there's anything wrong or we're broken or anything like that. It's just simply like, this is a pathway to reach our true human potential. And I am so excited to share this with you. All right. That's enough of the intro. Let's dive into this conversation with my friend and colleague, Philip McKernan, all about purpose, meaning, and impact. Philip, welcome to the new show. It's great to have you here. And you are the very first interview. Welcome.
Wow. I better not mess it up. Hey.
Am I? Exactly. No pressure. I see that you are joining from the castle.
Yeah, so this is the studio next to the castle, which is a more modern space, an amazing place to come and work. And then the castle sits next door, and I'm looking out the window here, and you're familiar with what I'm looking at. It's just this magnificent view of mountains and limestone, which is the bottom of the ocean 364 million years ago. So if you can't be inspired here, you're finished. Forget about
Yeah,
it.
it's your flatline. So but this is a great place for us to start. The castle is obviously the evolution of, I would say, your evolution. So perhaps you could take us from, $200 away from broke many years ago to, discovering the castle and everything that you're about now, just to give people a context around you and your
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, wow. Thanks for bringing me back to the $200. I try to, I really have worked quite very hard to get rid of that thought, but thank you. I really appreciate that as
No,
a starting point. But no, we got wiped out in the big recession, 2007, 2008. But very significantly underwater, like many around the world were. Trying to make a new life for ourselves in Canada at the time. Got home, we had $200 in the bank account. My wife said, "I'm not going back," and no disrespect to Canada, it was more to do with, I think, me personally. And I said, stupidly, I looked at her and I said, "Why not?" We were in my mother's kitchen in Dublin, which is obviously a few hours from here, and she said, "Because it's simply not working." And I think
Mm,
sometimes we need somebody else to call us out, and just to call out the obvious, the thing that we know, but we're too ashamed, we're too embarrassed, we're too proud to admit. And I just the overwhelming shame and embarrassment that I'd managed to get myself, my family into this situation. And we didn't have kids at the time, but and then fast forward to this beautiful, picturesque little valley, which is about 2 kilometers in width and about 5 kilometers in length. And I've been trying to buy a little cottage here to have a part of Ireland as part of our home. This is a place I've been running events and retreats for many years. And this castle emerged. And honestly, I think this castle was waiting for us, or we were waiting for the castle. I don't know which. And somebody said to me in a podcast interview about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, they said, did you always have a vision of buying a castle? And I said, yeah, when I was 7, it was on my vision board. And they went, no way. And I said, no, that's bullshit. And I said, however, it would be epic if it was, if I could spin that story. The truth is, I'd like to leave this as something for people to think about. I think you can plan and plan and plan and plan and plan. In fact, I think you can plan too much. I think you need to leave space in life to allow the universe to provide you with what it believes you need to be equipped with in order to become the best, greatest version of yourself that you can't even imagine. Because I think our thinking is limited by, certainly when it comes to ourselves, in terms of what we're capable of to an extent. And honestly, Greg, I'd love to tell you it was on a vision board. It wasn't. But yet, in some way, shape, or form, as I sit here today, I go, well, it was on somebody's vision board, because this is no accident.
yeah. And I've been there. I've felt the energy. It's incredibly special. And I've seen you at conferences and I've seen you in that space. And it's so in alignment, and the energy in that place is so powerful. I'm obviously a Lord of the Rings fan, this. And so when I find out that, there's a room where Tolkien, maybe did, it's like, it was just magic for me to be there. And I guess that really speaks to what I think maybe you were alluding to in your comments about that trajectory, is shifting away from mindset, which is plan, 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 think, to opening yourself up to what you refer to as SoulSet,
Yeah.
which is meaning, purpose, and all those sorts of things. Perhaps you could expand upon that.
Yeah, and I think SoulSec even goes a little bit deeper, in the sense that, yes, it's about purpose, yes, it's about meaning, but it's on a very basic human level. It's about feeling. It's just about this opportunity. Like our a thought is our mind's expression, our mind speaking, so to speak. And our feeling is what our soul is picking up in the world. And I think there's this incredible opportunity to feel your way through life to some extent, without being, irresponsible and having no plan, but actually to say, does this feel okay? Does this feel right? And, I think our job is to take that dial of alignment and just shift it continually over a period of time. And before you know it, you realize, shit, this is the greatest expression of who I am. It's the closest to me and the closest expression of who I am. And I think soul set for me, therefore, is a lot more potent and important than mindset in many ways.
And do we have to dial down the noise in order to be able to listen and feel?
100%. Yeah. So the noise, as far as I'm concerned, is often the amount of information we're consuming, as an example. So when people come to an event with me, I offer them at the very minimum the week that they're with me. If it's a week, I say, well, I don't want you to read books. I don't want you to absorb podcasts. I remember one poor lady looking at me with broken-hearted eyes going, no books. I went, what about your book, Philip? And I went, definitely not my book. Of all the books in the world not to read this week is my book. And then we had a good laugh about it. But there's nothing wrong with books. You've written books. You know, we are on a podcast. We are expressing ourselves in the hope that we can, and I know your intentionality behind the work you do. I know that. Hence, I was so excited. And it was a hell yes the second you asked. I just think it's the speed in which we're consuming it, the amount of what we're consuming. And I think what we're doing is we're giving almost too much of our trust away to other voices. So to me, it's about balancing out, listening to something, reading something, sitting with it and absorbing it and go, okay, great. For example, Greg, think about how many people we've met in this world, and we go, oh my God, you got to read this book. It changed my life. And I go, you know what? Brilliant. Love the name of the book. Just got a quick question. How precisely did it change your life? Oh, no, Philip, you don't understand. It changed my life. And I go, I get it. What exactly did you do with it? Well, I mean, there was nothing specific. It was, and I think a lot of our consumption of information is not because we want to inform ourselves. It's actually driven by scarcity. We're afraid to miss out. We're afraid not to read the latest, greatest book. So it's just getting that balance right. I'm not saying don't read books, just to be clear. And I'm not saying don't consume information. Just do it at a pace where you can begin to integrate the parts of it that truly speak to you and then move on. And also find the time to let the wisdom you inherently have to come out. But you can't do that when you're stuffing your head full of information. So dialing it down and dialing up that internal guidance to see what it is that you want to say and do in the world, because that's what the world needs, and doesn't need another Philip McKernan or another Greg. It needs another individuality and an individual expressing themselves in a way that hopefully makes humanity better.
It's almost like we have to be intentional about giving ourselves space, allow ourselves to slow down to listen, and then actually be brave enough to let that happen.
Yeah. Because it's scary for many. There are many people that you and I probably both know, that are afraid to get in the car without the radio on. Yeah. They just cannot be with themselves. Of all the strategies and all the tricks and all the things that I've done for myself, Greg, over the years, I think there's one thing that I say this time and time again. And honestly, it's so simple. I'm not sure people listen. I think people are looking for complexity. We're very good at creating complexity in our own lives. And the one thing that I've done consistently for myself, that's not true, actually, not consistently. When I do it consistently, it really has a positive effect. There are periods of my life when I have abandoned it, and I've always regretted doing that. And that is taking space for myself, for Philip, for nobody else. And I go away for one night minimum. I used to do it once a quarter. To me, minimum twice a year. And the very, 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 very basic, just try it once. And you go away and in relationship to yourself, and you basically stay somewhere that's remote. So it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It doesn't have many distractions. You don't watch TV, you don't watch videos, you don't read books, and you just be with yourself, and you just walk, and you just hike, and you jump in the ocean, and you just take downtime, and with no intention of any kind of end result. And it is remarkable. At first, my wife is going, this seems a bit weird. Like, I don't mind if you're going off to speak, or you're going off to run an event, or you're going to even outline a book or something, but you're going off to just to hang out with yourself. Like, it's a bit weird, Philip. And now there's not probably a couple of months that go by. She goes, yeah, the little Philip retreat, when's that coming up? Basically, let me translate that, Greg. Philip, you're being a bit of a pain in the ass. We see that you need this time for yourself. And by the way, Philip, we need it as a family. So can you just book a trip and go? And that is historically the best thing that I've ever done for Philip McKernan, without a shadow of a doubt.
Is that why Judith kicks me out of the house every month? Like, she's like, you need to leave and go anywhere. Got it. So that's actually not, it's for them. Okay, clear.
Maybe they're texting each other behind the scenes.
When there is that space, when you are immersed in nature, when you have the time to spend with just yourself, And I often challenge people to spend 20 minutes by themselves and
Yeah.
see how that
Yeah.
feels as a starting point to then potentially going for longer periods of time. When we have that space, when we have that time, when your mind settles, what are we then what would you tell someone who is in that moment and they're wondering what's going on? They're almost like they expect something. We have to maybe
Mm.
even let all of that go to open ourselves up. This is a layer of exploration that is really significant and it's really powerful and it's very unusual and it's extremely uncomfortable. So, how would we help people in that moment? Like, everyone's listening, they're watching this, like, okay, that sounds absolutely nuts. Maybe I'll try it. They're there and they're looking around. Now what? What do we do
Yeah.
with them? What do we help? How do we help them in that moment?
Well, first of all, I would ignore my advice and I would take your advice first and foremost, and that is start with the 20 minutes, 100%. However, if and when the time comes for you to take an overnight and you're going to do an overnight for yourself, expect it to be challenging. Expect
Hmm.
yourself to be distracted. Expect yourself to sabotage it. Expect yourself to find a way to have the noise back. Expect yourself to want to find some sort of distraction that brings you back to some semblance of normal, because that has become your normal, which is the chaos, the busyness, the whatever. And so if you go in with the expectation that actually it's not going to be perfect, that it's going to be messy, that it's going to be awkward, I think what happens is as that awkwardness starts to emerge, it is familiar. You've already named it. And the idea, I suppose, ultimately, if there was one word I could distill it down to, ultimately wanting people to get to this place is a place of allowing, just to allow what needs to emerge to emerge. Now, that's very different than distraction, which is your mind kicking in and going, hey, Greg, go peel a banana. No, no, Greg, jump out the window. Greg, why don't you see the person walking down the beach there in front of you? Why don't you just go and have a chat with them and get distracted? Why don't you pick your phone up? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? That's different. The allowing is maybe you feel sadness and it does not make sense. Maybe you feel
Hmm.
joy, but you haven't felt that joy for years. Maybe you feel you're angry suddenly and you don't know why. And allow that energy, whatever that energy is, to come up. Maybe you start to gently question some part of your life because deep down you've been staying busy because you don't want to address the fact that you're out of alignment in a certain area of your life, which on the surface doesn't have a profound impact. But if you just pull that string very gently and curious, it might lead you to ultimately getting clarity about something, will make a profound effect in one area of your life, which has a compounding interest effect and ripple effect in, and you know all about the ripple effect in another aspect of your life. So getting to a point where you've got this rhythm of allowing. And you know what? Ultimately, one of the greatest joys for me, the idea of sitting in a restaurant having dinner was so awkward because I would be sitting there going, they're looking at me, they think I've got no friends. And or whatever. So you'd be so self conscious. To get to a place that you genuinely enjoy your own company, like you genuinely think you're a bit of fun, like you're actually okay, you're actually pretty cool. And I'm looking at your face, and I don't know if this is on audio in the future or video or both, but the joy in your face or the sense of giddiness in your face I'm witnessing now, to me, I'm feeling that in my body saying this. To get to a point where you think, Jesus, actually, you know what? After all these years, I'm actually okay. I'm actually pretty good. I'm a good person and I like my own company. That's a remarkable place to be. And I'll tell you why. Therefore, you don't need anybody. You don't need your family. You don't need your colleagues. You don't need all the likes and Facebook and Instagram and everything else. You don't need external recognition. So when you get on stage and you deliver a talk, you deliver a talk from a place of pure desire for joy rather than some selfish desire for some sort of feedback loop. So you become a really attractive person in the sense energetically because you're not wandering around the world being needy. You're showing up in the world because you're here to make an impact and to say whatever it is that you truly want to say in the world.
I'm giddy because I played with that in an airport recently. You know, everyone gathers to get on the plane and everyone's like in a rush and you've got to wait because the plane's always delayed, at least in Canada. And I stood there with no phone and I just smiled. I was like, just hanging out. I was like, just enjoying my own company. And I was just sort of, and people were so put off Like people would walk by and they clearly thought I was a little bit nuts, or there was something wrong. Meanwhile, I was literally just standing there for 15, 20 minutes, little tiny grin on my face, just relaxing. And you could see people like, is he going to do something yet? When's he going to check his phone? And it was, that's why I was laughing. So it's actually brought that up. I was just experimenting. How uncomfortable can I make everybody else around me feel by actually just doing nothing and hanging out?
Well, actually, what I heard you say is, how uncomfortable can I make everyone else feel by being comfortable in my own skin?
Right.
That's what I was picking up when you were saying that.
That's funny. That may not be the most altruistic comment I've ever made in my life, but anyway, we'll just carry on. And I want to explore the idea of allowing something to emerge, surrendering to your soul's purpose, to what the universe has planned for you, and what you're really supposed to be doing, which then usually leads to a moment where you're like, oh shit. And you may have a realization about what it is that you actually need to be doing. I'm wondering if we can just explore this concept of surrender, allowing how that opens up realization, which then creates opportunity for feeling so much better moving forwards.
Yeah. Well, I want to start with the C word, and the C word in today's C word is control. And I think that so many entrepreneurs that I work with, they say they set up a business because they want freedom, but in reality, they want to be in control. And they want to be in control because they didn't have control at one part of their life, and they've convinced themselves that if they're in control, and they can control the outcome and all that, which is ultimately an illusion. Therefore, if you're coming at life and you want control more than perhaps the average person, whatever that means, it's very difficult for you to surrender to this idea that there's something waiting for you. And I love this idea that actually this is quite a recent thing. It's not new, but it's recent in terms of it's forming differently inside of me. That imagine that actually what we're meant to do. I'm hesitant to say destiny because it feels a little quirky, but imagine that what we're destined to do doesn't actually sit inside of us, that actually it's sitting just outside of us, so to speak. It's a bit of a weird idea. And it just needs us to step forth and to step into this new identity and this new beginning. And that the universe, you said it actually perfectly, that the universe has something else planned. Well, if the universe has something planned and they haven't let us in on it, then how do we create an environment for us to meet this, collide with the universal plan and us at the same time? And for me, I think it comes with three things. And I'm just literally making this up on the spot because this is what's come for me. Honesty, like asking yourself brutally honest questions that require brutally honest answers about alignment. Secondly is experimentation, trying things. We're so quick, Greg, to go, no, I'm going to the other side of the river, and I go, but what is that? Well, it's a new city I'm going to build. It's a new house I'm going to buy. It's a new business I'm going to start. Is there any stepping stones in that river? Oh, they're there, but I just want to jump over them all. Well, why don't you just take the first stepping stone? And then the mist comes in. They go, oh, this is a bit scary, Phil. I can't see the second one. I can't take the first step. Take the first step and then see what the next one emerges. And the third one then is create space. To create space in your life for the unexpected. Imagine if you decided to get up today, if you and I were both single and we were on the market, so to speak, and we were genuinely out there to find somebody, and you sat down with a pen and paper and wrote out the perfect person that you wanted to meet tonight, and that was going to be your wife and the mother of your children, and you're going to spend the next 50 years. Now, there are some people who believe that you can manufacture that intellectually in an intellectual exercise. I'm of the belief that if you try to force something like that, you will meet somebody, but there's a likelihood, there's misalignment that you don't see up front because you're too desperate for the outcome. But if you ask yourself, am I open to meeting somebody? Do I want to journey this earth with somebody? Yeah, I do, but I'm not going to force it. Nor am I going to sit in my cave every day. I'm going to put myself out into the world. And if the right person comes into my life, if that right person emerges in an environment, I think all of us have had those situations that when we're least expecting or looking for an outcome, a better outcome that we can't even imagine comes into our lives. So leaving space. So there are three ways in which I believe we set ourselves up to step in and to be introduced to what the universe, people might call it God or whatever, some spiritual plan, that somebody has manufactured for us. And the reason that they have designed this plan is because I don't think we believe we're brilliant enough to deserve a plan like that. Therefore, I leave it to the universe. And every time, Greg, I get my little dirty hands in and my fingerprints all over, and my ego wants to manufacture and manipulate it. Every time it goes to shit. Every time. Every single time. This castle is a great example. Over the 5 years that we spent restoring this castle, every single time I tried to push an agenda into this castle, the place kicked back and said, no, we don't want that. Every single time. It was remarkable.
All right, let's just take a little bit of a break. Let's breathe for a moment so that we can integrate all of this incredible science. And at this point, I'd love for you to share the episode with someone that you know. When you share this information, we all improve. We build a community together where we make the world a better place. So take a moment, pause, breathe, think through what we're learning, and share this with someone who could really benefit from learning this information. I'm feeling like it's the tension between openness versus outcome. When we are trained to go after outcomes, we're trained to reverse engineer outcomes. I'm certainly trained to set goals, reverse engineer them, build a process, design training plans, hit target zones, all those sorts of things. Yet, if we are open, not saying don't do the work, like pretending that you can manifest something and then sit on the couch that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about being open and then allowing us to lean into what feels right, that makes your soul sing, if you will, enables you to do your very, very best at the highest level, and everything just works. I know this seems probably really woo-woo to a lot of people listening, but it is shocking how much that tweak of focusing in on being open to possibility, being a possibilitarian versus trying to drive towards outcomes can make such a huge difference. It's like energy versus tension.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the context of, say, developing, let's say in the context of writing a book, and you've written many books, and you're a pretty serious writer in the sense that you've written a lot of books, you put a lot of amazing content out into the world. I'm not suggesting that you sit on a beach with the headphones on and, you have your sandwich next to you and your cup of coffee and you close your eyes and suddenly someone's going to deliver a book and it's going to be at the end of your sun lounger within a day, month, year, 5 years. It's to strive a balance between being open to what it is that you want to write, what the world needs, but also what is the part of you that basically has something to say that perhaps wasn't part of the initial plan, the book outline, and just say, well, what am I avoiding in this book? What am I not writing about in this book? What's the thing that scares me the most? What's the edge that I'm going to because it feels safe? And if I push myself just beyond that, what is the language? What is the possibility? What is the thing that I want to say that might outrage people, but actually it brings me alive? That's the piece I'm talking about. That extra, let's just call it that extra. It's not even 20%, it's not even 10%. That extra 1% becomes the provocative piece in the book, the thing that no one has ever heard, the thing that no one has ever heard in the context and where it's been written. So there is a book plan, there's an outline and everything else. And then there's obviously a process of writing this book out and reverse engineering it, and the book cover and the design and the launch and the everything else and the Amazons and the whatever. So that's all. So people say, oh, you just want to sit around and do nothing. No, it's how do you structure the process from ideation to a finished, complete book that is in the hands of another human being and the hope that it makes a difference in their life. But in the midst of it all, how do you create space to know that this is the most authentic reflection of what it is that you need to say and put out into the world? And you can only get to the threshold, the right to the edge of that, if you take space, you're courageous, and you ask yourself really strong questions and you challenge the essence of who you are in that process. That's what I'm talking about.
I have stood on the edge that you're describing with your help, and it is a very strange feeling because you're on the edge of, when I have been there, a sense of it's a black void that you're about to step into because you have no idea what's there. And yet you know that it is the single most important thing that you need to do. And that when you do it, like I don't, anyone watching listening to the podcast right now won't see me, but this is video. Check out the video because I'm like beaming with happiness as I describe this. Um, it is such a strange feeling when you are at that edge and you're on the verge of taking that step. And when you do take that step, there is no going back. And it is such an incredible feeling, but it is really, really weird. It is
Mm.
super scary. I don't think it's fear in a bad way, but it is definitely new. It is definitely requires letting go. It definitely requires getting rid of everything that has worked for you up to that point, and actually most of what has not worked for you up to that point, to bring you alive, to create that
Mm.
possibility of doing what you need to do at the highest possible level. And isn't it interesting that we are both using the term like you need to do this, right? It's that it is that powerful. It is that important. Anyway, that's just my
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
visualizations as you describe it.
As you were speaking, two thoughts or visuals came into my mind. Is walking to the edge of a landmass that you're familiar with. Like, it doesn't have to be the beach and the ocean or a cliff. People use those examples because the cliff represents this big leap of faith and everything else, and to some extent it does. But it can literally be the edge of a field where you just have never gone up to the ditch on the other side of it and peered through, because you're going from the known to the unknown. And I think that unknown piece has an edge and an energy about it that we're frightened of. But it's once you look through that hedge and you see what's beyond. My experience, two things happen: is one is you see the possibility, and two is it's never really as scary as the story you've made up. And I think we're reluctant to do that because we've built an incredible narrative about the damage it's going to cause. I cannot tell you how many people I've met and said, but Philip, if I do this, it's going to be a disaster. Like, I mean, yes, it's going to be amazing and it's going to be life-changing and it's going to be great, but it's going to cost me. And I go, it's really interesting how effectively you've built the narrative around the downside. But what if you don't do anything? What if you just walk to the edge of that field for the rest of your life and you get close to that edge and you do not approach the hedgerow and you don't peer through and you never know what's on the other side? Well, some might say, well, you're none the wiser. I disagree. I think there's always this sense of regret and remorse that tends to niggle at us. And the reason people stay busy is because they don't want to feel that remorse. They don't want to feel that regret. They don't want to feel that negativity. And they don't want to feel that niggle. And I think the cost of not walking up to that hedgerow and pulling it back and peering through and seeing what's possible and what's available in the world for you and for everybody else is a tragedy. And I also think it's an incredibly selfish act. I'm not saying people have to change constantly in their own lives, but what I mean by selfish, which is a pretty radical statement to accuse people of being selfish, is that most people go to their graves with their greatest music inside of them, their greatest ideas that both change their world and the world. I mean, if we needed any example, and I don't know what side anyone sits on, whether they think COVID was real or not real, whether they thought the vaccine was real or not real, leave all that aside for a moment. Look what we were able to do in the midst of the pandemic, of a global pandemic. We were able to pull together and achieve stuff that had never been achieved before in medical science to some extent. And I think that the world needs ideas. The world does not need another 50 billionaires. The world doesn't need another entrepreneur selling a business for 400 million and setting up another business and selling that for 400 million. It needs that entrepreneur to take their ideation, their possibility, their imagination, their genius, their giftedness, and turning it into say, how can I create something that's going to change the way the world is when I'm gone? And I think the tragedy is a lot of us don't do that.
Do you think that we sabotage ourselves? Do you think that we hold ourselves back? And is that the cause of the regret that so many people feel as they move through life?
100%. Yeah. I mean, when we came to see the castle, our business was down about 95%. So it wasn't an ideal timing. On the surface of it, it's not an investment. And my intuition was screaming at me, this has to happen. Like, you don't have a choice almost. Like that's how strong it was. And the minute they agreed the offer, I went looking for ways to walk away from this property. I wanted to find some reason to back away. In fact, I almost wanted them to sell it to somebody else. And if they did, I would have been gutted. But in some way, shape, or form, that's what I wanted. I wanted them to take it away. I wanted them to sell it to somebody else. I wanted them to give it to somebody else because I didn't feel deserving of such a magnificent place with 22 acres of Celtic rainforest and this beautiful 500-year-old medieval castle and this incredible studio. It's like, who am I to deserve that? And secondly, is I was almost afraid at this place, like what this place was capable of. And I was afraid whether I'd be able to pull this off or not. I wasn't sure. And it was not easy, but in hindsight, I can reflect upon the down days and the tough days here, and there were many. But ultimately, it actually was pretty straightforward because the tradesmen and women that came, the artists that came, I've got 2 people outside working in the grounds right now. And they're here not because they need the money. They're here because they love the place and they love what we're doing and they love the work we're doing. And I'll finish with this, Greg, because we started with the castle. I want to circle back to one thing. Every time I got in my head and I said, do you think this place will make money? Do you think it'll be worth more when we do it up? How do you think we sell this place? Do you think this is a good financial move? Every time I asked a question like that, which was all about Philip, really, and my family and our well-being financially or whatever, but every time I asked a different question, what do you think this place wants to become? Do you think this place would be a great place for people to come and heal, to grow, to self-reflect? Do you think people would leave here and be so inspired that they might go back and try something that they've always wanted to do their entire life, even if they didn't fully understand exactly what it looked like and they didn't have a business plan around it? Every time I asked those kind of questions, searching into the hearts and minds of other people that didn't even know this place existed, the feedback and the energy and the possibility was completely different. I wasn't making it about me. But when I get scarce and I get scared, it's about Philip McKernan. When I become abundant and I open my heart and my mind, my life is all about other people. And when I live in that place, I have fluency, I have flow, I have opportunities. I get invited to have amazing conversations like this. And the first podcast that you're doing, I mean, what a goddamn privilege. And I don't live my life like that every day, I'm afraid to say. But by God, when I do, it's magic.
Let's wrap this up because I can't beat that. There's no way I can beat that. There's nothing else to say. That is the core idea that I was hoping that we would get to. Let's take the castle as the analogy, and we want to invite people to take that first step. You've arrived at the hedgerow, you're pulling apart, the field is ahead of you, and they are, by analogy, the castle. There's something like the castle inside of all of us. That possibility, that potential, that purpose, that meaning. What would you say to everyone who is feeling this right now and is like, okay, maybe how do I take that first step? Or we might want to encourage them to take that first step. What message do you want to send to everyone right now to help them on that journey?
Well,
Journey.
It's such a brilliant question. And I love the question. It's so good is because it's so simple and so profound. And so I want to challenge people to contextualize and understand what the step is. So what we think of the step is, oh, I get out the chainsaw, cut the hedge down and jump over the wall and I never turn back. No. Oh, you mean I take 1 foot over the hedge on the wall, the beautiful stone wall, and I get a feel for it? No. What is the first step? The first step is a conversation. It is simply a conversation with yourself. And that to me is the first step. We put so much, I can't tell you how many people have said, oh my God, you're so amazing because you built the castle, or you didn't build, you restored the castle. You're so amazing because you wrote this book. You're so amazing because you did that. You're so amazing because you did the other. No, I tell you, if there's anything amazing in all of that, was having the courage to stop and go, you think? Really? Can you imagine? So rather than shutting down the idea, what if we just came to the edge and we basically said, what if there is something out there for me? What if I do deserve this? And to ask these gentle, searching questions and have this conversation. We have a little area, a little ceremonial area, and you can do this in your own kitchen, so you don't have to come to the castle. But we have this ceremonial area, and it's called the New Beginnings. And you basically take 7 stones, and these stones that we have, they're in this stone bowl. And the stones are from riverbeds and the tops of mountains all over the world, like Kilimanjaro and beaches in different places and rivers. And you take 7 stones, and the whole thing is to try on a new beginning. You walk down past this standing stone, which is an ancient symbol in Ireland for direction, and you walk around clockwise, and you come back and you put one. So you have 7 stones in your hand, and you put one back in the bowl. And then the next time you do the same thing. Next time all the way down. What are you doing? Every time you put a stone down, and every time you do that little pilgrimage, just it's only about 40 feet, you basically imagine a new beginning. So the first stone is, like, I'm imagining an amazing man or woman comes into my life. And the first one is, yeah, well, you can't trust men. And the second one is, yeah, no, I think I'll always be single. And the third one is, actually, but what if you can trust one man? And you put the stone down. And what if actually I already know that man? You put the next stone down. And you're opening to the possibilities that you cannot see because you've been too busy shutting them down with these narratives and catastrophizing. If you do make a change, everything's going to go to shit. So to me, essentially what I'm offering here is have the conversation and then make a choice whether you're going to go through the hedgerow or not. Then it's a choice. Right now, it's disempowered and it's been driven by fear rather than a genuine, legitimate choice. Am I going to do this or not? Second is, if I don't do this, what is the cost? What is the real cost? Because you may think you know the cost of doing it. You may not know the cost of not doing it. And then finally, the last question is, who am I depriving? Who else am I depriving? Because sometimes we can't motivate it for ourselves. But if we ask the question, not to judge, to be curious. When there's judgment present, there's no growth. Who am I depriving? Because sometimes we say, well, I can't do this. If I didn't have kids, I'd do it straight away. And I go, to me, it's like I'm depriving my children of witnessing their dad doing something courageous in the world. I'm not going to ever do that to them. That's not my choice.
All right. We've got some work to do. Philip, thank you so much. This is like one of the most fun conversations ever. I know that your work has been incredibly helpful for me. I know that this thinking is going to be incredibly helpful for everyone who has joined us for this. Thank you for your time. Thanks for your wisdom. Thanks for your energy. And I cannot wait to see what you put out into the world as well.
Yeah. Well, listen, I love you and I love the work you're doing, and I love your courageousness. And as my dad often says, there's a statement my dad uses, he's one of the good ones. And my friend, you are one of the good ones. And I'm so grateful to be here today.
Hi, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Philip. Just a great way to start our thinking about reaching our true human potential and doing the really challenging work to unlock our purpose and our meanings so that you can live an absolutely limitless life. If this episode was helpful for you, I'd love you to share it with someone. Normally we ask people to subscribe, but actually I want you to share this. Send this episode to someone that you think would benefit from hearing this conversation with Philip. We want to move this podcast forwards. We want to share it forwards, pay it forwards, if you will, and really just push positivity out into the world. If you want to check out Philip's work, he is at philipmckernan.com. Just search that. You'll find all of his social media and his books as well. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Really grateful that you're here to be part of this journey. And we really look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks so much. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that session. This is a little note from the lawyers. This podcast and video contains advice and information relating to health and wellness and is presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes. We've made enormous efforts to make sure that the information is accurate and that what we've contained in this episode is based on science and research. However, it should still only be used as a supplement rather than to replace the advice of your doctor or other qualified healthcare professional. If you know or suspect that you have a health problem, it's recommended that you seek your qualified healthcare professional's advice before embarking on any program, treatment, or protocol. All right, thanks for listening in. Really appreciate you. We'll see you in the next video, session, or podcast.